Hello and welcome to Endless Studio's video series on basic computer science concepts. In previous videos, we've covered the basics of how computers work and how programming allows people to give the computer instructions that it can understand. This series will go deeper into the details of programming fundamentals to help you learn how code gets turned into complex applications like video games. In this video, we'll learn about the syntax of programming languages and how commands are used to tell the computer what to do. We know that computers follow instructions and that programmers use high-level programming languages to write instructions that are human-readable and can be translated into something the computer understands. Human language has grammar, the rules that govern how to construct valid statements, and so do programming languages. Programming languages tend to rely on syntax to create clarity. Syntax refers to the order in which words, statements, and punctuation are structured to express ideas. Developers typically have to write their instructions in very limited, precise, syntactically valid ways for the computers to understand what is meant. Each programming language has its own syntax, and if you get it wrong, the computer won't be able to understand what you're telling it to do. Fortunately, when programmers write code, they often do so using an integrated development environment, or IDE, which can help them write properly and fix syntax errors. An IDE is similar to a word processing program like Microsoft Word or Google Docs, except for programming languages, not human language. It can detect and show you problems with the syntax before the code is compiled or converted into machine language. A commonly used IDE for software development is Microsoft Visual Studio, which is included with and can be used for writing code for the Unity game engine. So we know syntax differs from one programming language to another, but what are the common features? Well, programming languages generally use variables to represent and store pieces of information. They tend to use similar techniques for controlling the order in which code executes, called control structures. Finally, programming languages use specific commands that tell the computer what to do. We'll cover variables and control structures in other videos, but let's talk about how programming languages use commands to create precise instructions. Code is made up of individual instructions called statements that the computer executes in order, one after the other. Specific instructions that give the computer one real actionable thing to do can be called commands. Programming languages often have built-in commands that programmers use, and game engines like Unity also provide many commands that are useful in game development. For example, let's say we want an enemy to turn and face the player. Unity provides a command we can use to do this called LookAt. LookAt tells an object in the game world to orient itself so its front side faces another object that the programmer specifies. The actual C# language syntax that Unity uses to make our enemy look at the player using this command looks a little something like this. Notice that the statement ends with a semicolon. This is a standard part of the syntax of the C family of programming languages, and it tells the computer where the end of a statement is, like how a period is used at the end of a sentence in human language. In game development, we often have groups of instructions made up of many commands that we want to happen more than once during the game. Instead of rewriting that same collection of commands to do this over and over again, it's often useful to organize code in a way that lets you reuse the same modular unit of code in different places. This modular unit of code is called a procedure. You may also see procedures referred to as routines, functions, or methods. We'll cover how procedures work and common patterns to use them in other videos. No matter what programming language you use, learning the proper syntax using different kinds of commands and grouping commands into modular procedures are fundamental to programming for video games.